Listen up, fellow Christmas babies. It's time for a very special episode of Hold My Order, Terrible Dresser, the deep dive history nerd, Christmassy WKRP in Cincinnati podcast. I'm Mike Grasso. I'm going to be Father Christmas today. I've hung the stockings by the chimney with care, and I'm just waiting for my friend Rob to pop by. He said he'd be popping by maybe to grab a cup of eggnog with me. Hold on, I think I hear the doorbell now. Good morning, Rob.
Hello.
How you doing? Merry Christmas.
And a solemn Veterans Day to you, Mike.
Well, you know, I mean, you can look around. You can see all the Christmas decorations I've got up. I got a big punch bowl full of eggnog here, so feel free to get started. I thought maybe I'd go over to the piano later. Maybe we'd sing a couple of Christmas carols.
Well, it is mid-November.
Oh, you blew the illusion, Rob. People are going to be listening to this in December, and they're going to be all...
It's actually freakishly warm here in Canada. It's mid-November, and, you know, it's 12 degrees. That's like in the between 50 and 60 for you. So, yeah, I don't yet have the Christmas spirit, I have to admit.
Well, you know, that's not probably a bad thing, Rob, because I don't think anybody in this episode of WKRP had much of a Christmas spirit either. But by the end, of course, they all come together and have a great Merry Christmas.
Oh, come on. I bet you got yourself a honey of a tree.
No, I didn't get a Christmas tree this year.
Jennifer, come on. What is Christmas without a tree? Oh, hi, Bailey.
Hi.
Guess what I'm doing?
Talking to Jennifer.
Other than that.
Okay, everybody, let's clear off those desks and set up for the party so we all can have a very good time and get the heck out of here.
Oh, I want to switch characters. I want to be the I want to be the guy with Christmas spirit, because I'm a big Christmas and actually now Hanukkah. My family is
of course, yeah,
interfaith family. We do both. It's my kids live whatever the Jewish kid dream. We do Hanukkah and Christmas. And two Thanksgivings. So we are just, because of Canada, U.S. So like,
Four holidays.
I've kind of arranged my life in order to maximize the amount of turkey I can eat.
I think by the time we get started talking about Christmas specials, we will probably swap, and you'll be the one with a lot of fond memories, and I'll be the one kind of plumbing my memory. So this week we've got 2 episodes of WKRP, Jennifer's Home for Christmas and Sparky. And as you heard from our opening shtick, we're going to start with Jennifer's Home for Christmas. The first of 2 Christmas episodes that WKRP did. And I think the reason why I want to bring that up first, Rob, is because this one I don't remember very much of. I remember
didn't remember it either.
I remember the very famous, the big guy eats, Johnny's, space brownies and has a, Dickens-related hallucination.
Does the classic Christmas Carol 3 ghost thing. We'll save that for next Christmas.
But yeah, Jennifer's Home for Christmas, kind of a little oddball. Definitely you can tell it's their first try at doing a Christmas episode, because they're still kind of trying to figure out what a good plot would be. But the basic plot is that everybody's worried that Jennifer is going to be alone for Christmas because she's not going back to Rockthrow, and none of her gentlemen suitors are apparently coming by, at least according to the people at the station. Of course, we find out that's not true when we go to Jennifer's apartment at the end. But it's it's a very heartwarming tale about everybody who is part of a work family really not being into the Christmas spirit at work until they realize one of their own might not have a great Christmas.
I believe we were going to sing?
Yeah. Good King Wenceslas.
No singing, fellas. Look out, you. We got to go if you want to ride home.
Oh, okay, Herb.
That sounds good to me. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Wait a minute. We haven't had our Christmas toast.
That's right.
All right, toast. Let me handle this. I'll handle it. Okay, to Christmas? No?
Okay. Merry Christmas.
No, wait a minute. Is that it? A 10-minute Christmas party? Well, that's just fine. That's perfect. I'm sorry you've all been so inconvenienced. Enjoy yourselves. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
Jeez. She sure knows how to ruin a good party.
Yeah, and then they all kind of set piece at the end. They all, one by one, they all show up at Jennifer's house bringing a tree until the whole apartment is filled with trees, and they have the real Christmas party. They have an office Christmas party which ends up being kind of rushed and joyless, and then they have the real Christmas moment at Jennifer's apartment.
Yeah, everybody's got to rush to get to the airport or get their reservations booked. I love the idea of being able to book reservations for Christmas like 2 days before you leave. Like
That's true.
Boy,
that was kind of random, but that all felt actually fairly true. The kind of 3 days before Christmas, everyone is mostly just kind of harried and stressed with everything they have to do before, in order to enjoy their vacation.
Yeah, exactly. Ostensibly enjoy, because we get to, obviously, with a Christmas episode, we get to hear a lot about everybody's plans. We should break these down because they're all really interesting, I think.
Listen, Jennifer, I'm going to be sitting here for 12 hours straight on Christmas Day, listening to the Little Drummer Boy over and over and over.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
I volunteered. I've nothing better to do. I'm alone. You know how hard it is to find a 2-pound turkey? It's hard.
You get a little glimpse into people's home lives and family lives or whatever. In most cases, it's only just a line or two, but I really did like that, hearing what each person was up to and just seeing where they fell. We've split the cast by Suits versus Dungarees, and we split the cast by Order versus Chaos, but here we get to split them by, Santas versus Scrooges or whatever, the people who have the Christmas spirit and the people who don't.
And I think that matches up pretty well with what you would expect. The big guy is decorating the office, and the
big guy loves Christmas.
You can totally see that. He's a big kid. He's probably going to get a new Nerf set, under the tree,
right.
From Carmen. So let's see. We've got, first of all, Johnny has to stick around and play Christmas music on Christmas,
yes.
Which I thought was great. Maybe he's getting time and a half, but like the idea of him having to play the Christmas music all the days leading up to Christmas, which he hates.
And Christmas radio is so desperate. There's still stations. I know a lot of people don't listen to, actual radio anymore, but there are still stations that switch over to an all Christmas format for about a month. Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah, and it does make me think that mostly it is those beautiful music stations that do it. So Johnny having this kind of playlist is almost like a legacy of the old format,
Right.
Maybe like all those diehards called in on December 1st said, "Where's my Christmas music? Don't play rock and roll." And the big guy's just like, "Okay, let's just do it. Let's just do a month of Christmas music."
But even a rock station,
yeah.
they have to scrounge up all of the Christmas rock songs, right? And you can only play Bruce Springsteen singing "Santa Claus is Coming to Town" so many times.
Well, there were a lot fewer of those songs in '79 too. I think that the one song we hear this episode that's not a traditional Christmas song is a Chuck Berry song. That I think Venus plays. And so I think the 80s was the bumper crop of like rock Christmas albums,
Oh, well, I wish it could be Christmas every day. When the kids start singing and then begins to play.
Now, isn't that a thing in Britain, though? Isn't that a British thing to have those sort of Christmas songs? That there's a much more intense relationship with Christmas. I get this primarily from Love Actually, but you have, an insider. So is that not a thing in Britain?
I do. I've spent a few Christmases in Britain at this point, and again, this is way off the subject. We got to talk about it though, because when the month starts, you get your Radio Times that has all of the TV shows that are going to be on for the entire month that are Christmas themed. And the music thing is that everyone always remembers what was the number one song at Christmas. And so they'll play retrospectives of like Top of the Pops, like performances of all of these number one songs. So you have all these glam bands from the like early to mid 70s, like, they've got the shag haircut, like purple hair, but they've got like a Santa hat on. And there's usually somebody playing an elf, and it's very plasticky kind of 70s, and so, but those are the ones I think people look back on with the most fondness because they look back on it ironically and go, oh, haha, I'm probably wrong though. They probably don't look back on it ironically. They're probably like, oh yeah, I love Wizards, Please Come Home for Christmas or whatever it's called. I'm gonna get yelled at for getting that song wrong. My God.
Okay, so back to WKRP.
Merry Christmas, Jennifer. It's nice to see someone with a little Christmas spirit.
This stinks. I can't get a flight out of here. I'm on standby. Who do those airlines think they are?
It'll work out. You'll get home.
Oh, yeah, just in time for a room full of relatives asking me if I'm engaged. Involved. Pregnant.
But you'll be home.
I'm with you, Bailey. All of Lucille's people blew in last night.
How many?
I don't know, I lost count. There are beds and cots and hungry, overweight relatives all over the place.
So Herb and Bailey both are just dreading having to deal with the family, which is, again, kind of interesting. Herb's got his in-laws in. And you can only picture what kind of family Lucille's got, right?
He says, Lucille's people are coming in. So you know that there's like a busload of...
I wish we knew her maiden name. We could,
yeah, that's right. There's a busload of sort of dotty, Midwestern nice, chirpy people coming in.
Yeah, I mean, and Bailey, we find out in this episode she's from Chicago, which I never would have guessed, but, she's going back there to see her family, and her mom apparently is one of these people who can't deal with having a professional daughter who's single and working for herself. She's like, when are you going to get married? Which I thought was really interesting.
That's right. That was one of my ideas for WKRP season 5. Remember?
That's right.
That was that I just assumed that would be that her mom would be hassling her about that.
This would be a great, mid-'80s, John Hughes, vehicle for Jan Smithers.
For Jan Smithers.
Go
going
back
home
to
Chicago
for Christmas and have a family you can't deal with.
Like John Candy is her uncle or something like
exactly,
that.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about.
You really did treat me nice.
Hi.
Hey, baby. Jennifer. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it okay if I come in?
Sure, of course. I thought everybody was gone.
Well, they are.
Merry Christmas, baby.
I like that.
Yeah, Chuck Berry.
Would you like some of Mr. Carlson's brew?
Thanks.
Venus?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I ruined the party this afternoon? I mean, people do have places to go and things to do.
No.
I guess I just expect everybody to feel about Christmas the way I do. Whatever happened to that joy we used to have when we were kids? I used to leave cookies and milk out for Santa Claus.
Yeah. I remember my grandmother always dressing up as Santa every year.
Your grandmother?
Yeah. Well, you see, my grandfather did it, and after he died, she kind of kept up the tradition.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Jennifer kind of walking around the station, trying to make sure the party's going to go off without a hitch. And, when she doesn't see everybody have the Christmas spirit, she gets kind of upset.
Yeah, she sort of scolds them when everyone is just kind of seeing the party as something to get through before they can get out. There's a nice scene where she and Venus talk in the booth.
Yeah.
And Venus is, Venus has the Christmas spirit. Venus is Santa, and he has his fly Santa outfit, and has a nice little, Venus tells a nice little story about his grandmother always being Santa, right?
Yeah. I thought that was kind of sweet in a again, kind of a melancholy kind of way, sort of.
Yeah, it's also just nice, I think. Venus gets to have some backstory, and it's not like, oh, by the way, he's black. Here's a sort of, black thing about Venus.
Yeah.
It's just his backstory.
He's he's AWOL from the armed forces or something. Yeah.
Venus Jennifer isn't a pair we see a lot.
No.
So that is a nice scene, and it's Venus who I think tweaks to the fact that it seems like she doesn't have plans. The sort of surprising thing that she wouldn't have something awesome to do on Christmas. So everybody ends up heading over there.
Yeah.
All just too much. I mean, this is really so touching.
We want you to have as wonderful a holiday as we're going to have. Right?
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. I mean, you're all so very sweet. And I am so touched. Which just makes it all the more difficult to tell you that I have to go.
Huh? Go where?
Bethlehem. The Admiral is flying me to Bethlehem for Christmas in his jet.
What do you think of the resolution that, in fact, Jennifer's plan that she and the Admiral are flying a bunch of orphans to Bethlehem?
The first thing here is that it is bizarre and random and it's believable in Jennifer's life that she would have somebody who have his own private jet and all that stuff.
Yes.
That's totally believable. But it almost makes me think maybe she made up the Bethlehem and orphans part, but obviously she has to be telling the truth about the Admiral coming because his limo is coming to pick them up.
Well, this is what I actually thought would have made this a much better episode, is if it was revealed that was a lie.
Yeah.
Either whether it was revealed to the people, to the rest of the cast, or if it was if the cast didn't figure it out.
Yeah.
But sort of, and the episode closed on Jennifer. I mean, it would have been very sad, but in a way.
She's just going with the Admiral to a hotel banquet or something like that.
Yeah.
It's
the what I pictured was the final scene is him calling and saying he can't make it.
Oh. Yeah.
Which maybe that's darker than WKRP would ever go. But I feel like the actual resolution, besides being a little bit strange.
Yes.
Is that something that even a kind of wealthy eccentric would do, fly orphans to Bethlehem for Christmas. Is Bethlehem a great place for orphans at Christmas?
Definitely not even in 1979.
In 1979, yeah. So besides that being a bit strange, it seemed to me to, I don't know, pull the rug out from under the pathos of the episode. That we think it's an episode about Jennifer, people realizing that Jennifer is lonely, but she's not lonely, and so what is the point?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, and the idea of them all getting together for a real Christmas party with real cheer before they all fly out to wherever they're going is actually really powerful.
Yeah, that's nice.
But you're right. Like the idea, the resolution with Jennifer doesn't actually fit either side of the equation, either happy or sad. It's just sort of there, you know?
Yeah.
I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know, where the treetops glisten and children listen to hear sleigh bells in the snow.
I was about to remark on this being a sort of surprisingly melancholy Christmas episode, but maybe it's not surprising. Maybe you need a little melancholy. Maybe there is something melancholy about Christmas, or there can be, and maybe you need the melancholy to kind of cut the sweetness of a Christmas episode.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. When I got through the first half of the episode, I started like scribbling down some notes like, well, is this a 1970s episode, a Christmas episode of a sitcom? But then I started thinking about episodes and specials and other sort of, even Christmas songs. Like, a lot of them have that sort of longing. You're either not where you want to be, or where you want to be is not quite right for the holiday. And so there's all the other stuff about Christmas being sad. The fact that it's in the, that literally it's at the darkest point in the year in the Northern Hemisphere, right? I feel really jealous of those people in the Southern Hemisphere, man. They've got those.
I think that is actually like, that is part of the point of Christmas.
Sure.
Is that it is the sadness and the darkness, and Hanukkah, which we do at our house, is the festival of lights. Mm-hmm. It's about the candle in the darkness, right? And it's to me, it is not a coincidence that the darkest point of the year, when the sun is sort of, when you see the least of the sun,
yep.
And actually just a few days after, the days people always say, well, the days are getting longer now.
Yeah.
Which is such a tiny thing, because it's just like a minute more light, just a little bit more light. And to me, that's almost like, that is the Christmas message is, I think it needs, for Christmas to work, it needs to be dark and cold, and there needs to be some sort of, sadness or longing in it. And then it's, what do we do? We light the candle in the darkness, we come together, and we, and so, like all the great Christmas songs, White Christmas, Blue Christmas, they all have they're all about longing or nostalgia or missing or being away from something. And maybe all the great Christmas episodes, if there is a list of a canon of great Christmas TV, I think that there has to be some sorrow in it, or else it will just be sugary sweet.
Oh, honey, come over here. Look at this.
Oh, is that beautiful? Oh. Merry Christmas.
Next to me in the blackness lay my oiled blue steel beauty, the greatest Christmas gift I had ever received or would ever receive. Gradually, I drifted off to sleep, pranging ducks on the wing and getting off spectacular hip shots.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm so happy that we've managed to get you into the Christmas spirit by invoking all of the sadness. Yeah, exactly, right? But I think that the stuff we see in this WKRP episode, everybody rushing around, those 2 weeks before Christmas, they're always a pain because it is dark early and it is cold, and you do have to, you have to fight 5,000 other people for the gift of the year, right? And all that stuff. And it's like, it's funny. You're right. The moment where Christmas is over. Okay, everybody knows Christmas Story, right?
Yeah.
It's been played incessantly, time and time again since the mid-'80s. There's one moment at the end of the Christmas Story, or near the end. The Red Ryder BB gun's been opened up and shot, and he almost shot his eye out, and the parents, right? And they're just sitting in the glow of the tree after the kids have gone to bed, and Ralphie kind of takes a peek down there and sees them just kind of finally just sighing and saying, "Oh, it's over." Christmas night is oftentimes the best part of Christmas. Is like you've eaten everything, you've opened everything, and now you can just kind of breathe and say, "Okay, the holiday's over, and it's all done, and we can finally kind of relax," and that's why the Brits have Boxing Day, man. Boxing Day is the best. You just sit
Boxing
around.
Day is the best. We do it in Canada too.
Of course you do. I forgot.
It is the best. And it's also, I love that moment of relaxing with the family. And then also, if you ever can, go out to a bar with your friends on Boxing Day or on December 27th, because everybody is so happy to be out of sort of in a there's no pressure, and that same sort of relaxing and and getting away from their families.
Be it known to all and sundry that Ralph Parker is hereby appointed a member of the Little Orphan Annie Secret Circle and is entitled to all the honors and benefits occurring there too.
Remember, kids, only members of Annie's Secret Circle can decode Annie's secret message. Remember, Annie is depending on you.
Be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Ovaltine? A crummy commercial? Son of a bitch.
So we're talking about our own sort of nostalgia about Christmas and Christmas episodes, right? I mean, or Christmas specials or Christmas cartoons. Now I'm in the mood now. Now I want to talk about it.
We've gotten ourselves into the Christmas spirit.
I have to admit, I've probably gone back and forth on A Christmas Story because I just mentioned it and I'm just thinking about it and I've seen it a million times. There's still some really good, nicely subversive moments in that. So Gene Shepard, who we mentioned a few weeks ago in our episode about Mike Fright, famous New York area DJ, wrote A Christmas Story just about his own memories of growing up in the Midwest in the 40s, right? I mean, it's full of all these great pop culture, again, nostalgia. Little Orphan Annie and the Red Ryder BB gun and sort of all these things.
The Ovaltine secret message I always think about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's a pay-on to the golden age of radio too in a lot of ways.
That's true.
One great thing about marrying somebody from England is that, my wife Jenny had never seen this before moving here. So I got to re-experience it through her eyes, and it actually refreshed the movie for me. And maybe it has been overexposed, but it's up there for me. It's top 10.
Rats. Nobody sent me a Christmas card today. I almost wish there weren't a holiday season. I know nobody likes me. Why do we have to have a holiday season to emphasize it?
Some Christmas specials you remember from growing up?
Let me think. I guess Charlie Brown's at the top of my list. That's probably the one I remember the most and remember the most fondly.
Yeah.
It's weird to me how the things that survive and the things that don't. So my kids probably know The Grinch off by heart. It's still in circulation in a way that Charlie Brown is not. This Peanuts movie is coming out now, and and my kids barely know who Charlie Brown and the Peanuts characters are, right? But we gave Charles Schultz a bit of shit for the anti-commercialism message of the Christmas special when you can buy Charlie Brown everything.
Right, yeah.
I think it's a classic with the great Vince Guaraldi music, so that's probably the one I have the fondest memories of.
I'm Mr. Green Christmas, I'm Mr. Sun, I'm Mr. Heat Blister, I'm Mr. 101. They call me Heat Miser, whatever I touch starts to melt in my clutch. I'm too much.
The other ones that jump into my mind, of course, are the Rankin Bass, Rudolph, and all of the umpteen sequels to that one.
Well, I'm glad you like them because I've always found the animation in those. I mean, I don't want to get into a whole thing about not liking.
Oh, I didn't say I liked them. I just said they jumped into my mind. No. They're weird and there's. Yeah,
the animation's weird, but they're also it's a whole like continuity. Really,
that's the level at which I find them fascinating. I think the Rudolph one itself is just kind of odd and slowly paced, but then they just kept making them, and they made them for all the different holidays, and they made them and they found ways to make them even when there wasn't a holiday. Like I remember the one I remember well is Christmas in July, Rudolph's Christmas in July.
Oh, yeah.
All these extra characters come in, Island of Misfit Toys, but I think Christmas in July is the one that has Heat Miser and Cold Miser, who are kind of like these super villains tied to the elements. And that's when it kind of got fascinating to me, was when it sort of expanded into this, it was sort of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this whole sort of transmedia franchise, cross-platform franchise of the Rankiverse or something like that. This kind of vast continuity, all built around Rudolph and the Avengers and everything.
Well, you say that, and I go to the Wikipedia entry, and the timeline is split up into Rudolph era and then other holiday specials. So you pegged it. That's exactly what's going on there. And it was the early 70s when. Oh my God. So, Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July was, 1979.
Okay.
God. And
Perfect.
featured Ethel Merman's voice. Mickey Rooney provided the voice of Santa Claus. This is sort of the Airport 79 of, Rankin Bass specials,
Yeah. That's right. Get all the celebrities in there for a big holiday disaster flick.
Oh, wow. That's great.
We could watch Sabrina's Christmas Wish.
Hard pass.
What? Come on! You love horsing around!
Yeah, but I always skip the Christmas ones.
Because the themes of family and togetherness are a chilling reminder of your own isolation?
No, but thank you for that. Todd, special holiday episodes are always stupid. Cynical cash grabs by greedy corporations looking to squeeze a few extra Nielsen points out of sentimental claptrap for mushbrain idiots who'd rather spend their Christmas watching a fake family on TV than actually trying to have a conversation with their own dumb families.
I like it when people on TV hug each other.
There's a running joke in our house about, so we said, I think that good Christmas TV requires a little bit of melancholy, which is why I think Charlie Brown works, because Charlie Brown, of course,
is, he's like sad about, Snoopy's putting up too many decorations.
He's just sad. He's just Charlie Brown. He's always Charlie just Brown, sort of sad. But, and then, you get into the 80s Christmas specials, and every franchise has them. I looked up a list of, like the Pac-Man Christmas extravaganza or whatever. Like, they get increasingly mercenary, and, very often the kids' Christmas specials will make Christmas itself the MacGuffin.
Sure.
Which I mean that, like, Christmas is at risk. Someone has to save Christmas, right? And that's like still a running joke or trope in my family, is that all through the holiday season, if anybody like spills a glass of juice or forgets to like pick up the mail or something, they've ruined Christmas. Oh my God, Amy ruined Christmas. Oh my God, Mom ruined Christmas. And then if anyone does anything good, they've saved Christmas. So, thank you for bringing me that cup of tea. You've saved Christmas.
Time for a childhood story from yours truly. This links up great because...
Did you lose Christmas?
I didn't. Well, I kind of did. So here's the deal. First of all, those of you listening with little kids right now, you might want to close their ears for about 2 to 3 minutes, because I'm going to talk about Santa, and how Santa doesn't actually exist. Because this story goes back to, I'm an only child, Rob, as you probably know, and so probably listeners know. And so, growing up, Christmas, I got a lot of shit. I was a pretty spoiled only kid. I'm not going to lie to you. So it was a great time. It was a glorious time. So, when I get to be around 8 or 9, on the schoolyard, some of those, tougher kids are starting to, try to spoil Christmas by saying there's no such thing as Santa. And I'm like, I was pretty agnostic about it. I could be like, okay, maybe there's no Santa, whatever. And 1 year eventually the secret gets out, and I'm deemed old enough not to believe in Santa anymore. My crucial question to my parents was, is this going to reduce the overall amount of presents I get every right. Christmas? I wasn't like sad Santa was gone. I was just like, listen, if you're getting me like 8 board games, I want to still get 8 board games. You know what I mean? You're not going to cut that in half, right? I don't remember how the negotiations went. Maybe my mom can write in after this episode, but that was my big concern. It wasn't like, losing a part of my innocence or like right. the myth of Santa. It was more like, I don't know. How many Transformers am I going to get now as opposed to last year? So
how does this affect the bottom line?
That's an embarrassing story.
Right.
That's the most embarrassing story I've ever told here.
When my daughter started to suspect that the whole thing was a put on. It was actually the Tooth Fairy before Santa, but when she started
that's the one with the highest threshold of suspension of disbelief,
requires
right?
the most suspension of disbelief. And when she started to suspect, she said, Daddy, a lot of kids have been talking about the Tooth Fairy at school, and she said, but I don't want any spoilers.
My God!
Yeah, so she's her daddy's daughter,
time,
or
right?
immediate age child. But basically she was like, I suppose it could be the parents doing it, but how would you and Mummy think of that? Like, she didn't think we were smart enough to pull it off. That was the main thing. She was just like,
oh God! Now I want to see a heist movie themed, two parents trying to get in, put the bunny under the pillow.
That seems like a Christmas special right there, or a Tooth Fairy. But that's it. Rankin Bass. Did they ever do a Tooth Fairy special?
Hello. You the new butler?
Well, it's been a long time since I've been the new anything.
What's happened to Hudson?
I guess he's changing.
Yeah, he does that a lot, doesn't he? I'm David Bowie. I live down the road.
Oh.
Sir Percival lets me use his piano when he's not around. He's not around, is he?
I can honestly say I haven't seen him, but come on in. Come in.
But
come on in.
Are you related to Sir Percival?
Well, distantly, yeah.
Oh, you're not the poor relation from America, right?
Gee, news sure travels fast, doesn't it? I'm Bing.
Oh, I'm pleased to meet you. You're the one that sings, right?
Well, right or wrong, I sing either way.
Oh, well, I sing too.
Oh, good. What kind of singing?
Well, mostly the contemporary stuff. Do you like modern music?
Oh, I think it's marvelous. Some of it really fine. But tell me, you ever listen to any of the older fellas?
Oh, yeah, sure. I like John Lennon and the other one with Harry Nilsson.
Ooh, you go back that far, huh?
So the kids had these specials, right? But the grown-ups, they had their own specials, right? And it's very much in that same vein in the 70s and 80s of kind of throwing a bunch of celebrities into a variety type show and having Dean Martin host it kind of drunkenly, and it kind of duplicates and replicates that drunken Christmas party kind of vibe, because there's showgirls in dancing outfits and comedians doing shtick and sketches and stuff like that. And that vein of Christmas special, that one's very dead these days. We still have cartoons coming out with new Christmas, but the whole variety special.
The variety special thing, right? That was a really, the Carpenters at Christmas or something like that. Or the one we were referencing at the top of the show with Bing Crosby and
David Bowie. Yeah, I mean that was really.
Bing comes over to borrow a cup of glam from David, and I see you're sitting down at the piano. Yeah.
Did you see what Bill Murray is doing this year for Netflix?
No.
He's doing Sofia Coppola is doing a Bill Murray hosted Christmas special with all of his friendly celebrity guests.
Just like this kind of thing.
Yeah,
like a classic
exactly.
70s,
it's going to be on Netflix, and Amy Poehler's going to be in it, and all of basically everybody Bill Murray could get to be George Clooney, all that stuff. So I'm sure that's going to become a Christmas tradition for jaded Gen Xers to watch after the kids have gone to bed.
What?
Nothing. It's a card from my dad.
What is it? Wait. Dear son, happy Festivus? What is Festivus?
It's nothing. It's nothing.
When George was growing
Jerry,
up,
no.
his father hated all the commercial and religious aspects of Christmas, so he made up his own holiday.
Oh, and another piece of the puzzle falls into place.
All right.
And at the Festivus dinner, you gather your family around and tell them all the ways they have disappointed you over the past year.
And is there a tree?
No, instead there's a pole. Requires no decoration. I find tinsel distracting.
Well, as I said at the top, now my family does Hanukkah. We sort of do both, but we often do the Jewish Christmas of a movie in Chinese, which now is a thing that like many Jewish things, it's being taken up by lots of Christians are now doing that.
Yeah, I've done it a few times myself.
Much to the annoyance of my Jewish relatives, actually. What are all these goyim doing here at the...
We can't get seated at the Chinese restaurant and the movie theater is mobbed. What's going on?
That's right. But another TV-related thing that has really stuck, for a few years at least, is Festivus.
Oh yeah.
So my family now, almost refers to Christmas more often as Festivus than Christmas. And basically for us, Festivus signifies if we can't all get together at Christmas, we pick another date, and that's, Festivus is going to be December 27th this year, or it's going to be December 19th or something like that.
That's
but,
great.
I got 3 invitations to Festivus parties this year. Festivus has just become, Festivus for the rest of us, as they said.
So that's based on a real holiday that the writer's dad invented, right?
I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Dan O'Keefe was a
Larry
writer.
David's dad or some
No, it was Dan O'Keefe's
writer?
a writer. He wrote the episode. And his dad, I guess invented it in the 60s because he was sick of commercialism, basically. So I think aluminum trees were starting to come out at that point. So he's like, why don't we just put up a frickin' aluminum pole in the middle of the, and the feats of strength, and you'll have to, air your grievances to your family. It's a genius. It really, it's kind of like Christmas distilled down to its most raw form, basically. You know what I mean? Put this arbitrary thing in your living room and get angry at your family and have a fight with them, basically.
I do remember, or I think last year, somebody on social media was scolding people for appropriating Festivus and saying, you're missing the point. The point is that George had a cruel, borderline abusive father, and this is and that Festivus is nothing to joke about, which is a level of seriousness applied to a sitcom, which is by definition something to joke about that I couldn't totally get behind. But definitely Festivus is, that's why I think it resonates, is that it is, acknowledging some of the darkness that is in this holiday.
Daniel O'Keefe's dad, also named Daniel O'Keefe, wrote in 1982 a book called Stolen Lightning, The Social Theory of Magic, in which he talks about rituals and holy days, and basically apparently he had an anthropology background, so also allowed him to distill all of the West's commercialism and consumerism into a holiday that just had very basic symbols of arguments, aluminum, and, basically having fights with your family, which I think is fantastic.
Hey, Lester. Listen, I want you to do a running story on your newscast about Santa and his sleigh being sighted on the way to Cincinnati.
Are you serious?
Hey, it's cute, Les. It always works.
Cute? Andy, news is not cute. Poignant, dramatic, yes, sometimes ironic, but never cute.
Well, we went far afield there. There must be a few things about the episode itself that we should call out.
So Andy says to Les before he's getting ready to leave, why don't you do a little fun little broadcast about Santa being sighted by the Air Force or whatever, and that's based on an actual thing. The idea that every Christmas Eve NORAD will see Santa's sleigh on radar, basically, and track him as he goes through the world. But the origins of that, right? It's a fantastic and really random kind of happenstance.
Well, it's a wonderful little bit of 20th century Cold War Christmas mythology that it was 1955, a department store in Colorado Springs had an advertisement that said, you can call, hey kids, call Santa. And they gave the number, but there was a typo in the number. And when you actually called the number, you got the Continental Air Defense Command, CONAD, which later became NORAD. And so kids, in Colorado Springs that year were calling up the nuclear defense, headquarters of North America, and the colonel who was on duty that night, rather than hang up, answered the kids and told the staff to give anyone who called in to tell the children, oh, well, here we're tracking Santa. Here's his current location.
Jeez.
And it's this little Cold War Christmas miracle that became a tradition and became a thing, as we say. And now it's a big deal. Now they get thousands of phone calls from all over the world, and they have a website where they track him.
Delight your loved ones with the unexpected gift. Shoes. A great Christmas idea.
Okay, Xmas babies, here's a little tune that, for me, just kind of sums up the spirit of Christmas past, present, and future.
Also, Johnny plays a bit of Christmas music that he feels completely summarizes the holiday season. And it's the very famous, I called it Jingle Dogs, but that's not its actual true name. It's the Singing Dogs. Okay. And they also come from the 50s. Somebody learned how to pitch shift in the studio and decided to use these barking dogs to simulate a bunch of songs. The only one that stuck around was the Jingle Bells one, and that got replayed and reissued all throughout the years. And so that goes back a long ways. The Jingle Cats that have become popular in the last 20 years, because everybody loves cats. I don't know. The Jingle Cats are kind of like a 1980s, 90s ripoff of the original Singing Dogs. So if you want the original, go back to the 50s and listen to the Singing Dogs do Jingle Bells.
These are for me. Oh, gosh, Herb.
Worms?
Not just any worms, red wigglers. They're our biggest clients. Besides, you fish.
Oh, Bailey, thank you for this great piggy bank.
You're welcome, unless winning through intimidation. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Certainly helped me.
Oh, the gifts that everybody gives each other are great. I actually really liked Bailey and Les's gifts for each other.
Yes.
Les gets a big ceramic piggy bank, and it's
she gives
really
him a
cute.
big ceramic piggy bank shaped obviously like a pig, and he gives her a book called Winning Through Intimidation.
And he says, "Hey, it worked for me."
It worked for me.
And Herb, kind of a cheap gift now that I think about it. Not just because of the fact it's bait, but also because it's from one of their clients. It's from Red Wigglers, and I'm thinking to myself, man, they probably had like a whole bunch of like these Chinese food cartons full of like worms, and he's the guy from Red Wigglers was like, "Hey, Herb, take a few of these home with you for Christmas. You can go
Christmas,
fishing."
You gave him a carton of worms. That's right. And can you fish in Cincinnati in December? I don't know.
It's gonna be tough. You're gonna be doing some ice fishing, but what I really want to talk about, if Red Wigglers is truly the Cadillac of worms, Rob, I feel like they should have a little bit better packaging. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. At least brand the Chinese food carton.
Yeah,
I pictured Cadillac of worms. I pictured like a gold filigree, like canister full of like individually wrapped like worms.
Individually wrapped worms. That would be good. That would be good. To me, that sort of worms. Anytime I've bought worms, they come in a round styrofoam, sort of like like you might get soup in at a fast food restaurant. That kind of a container.
We need to investigate this. I didn't realize you fished. Oh my God. I don't think I've actually bought bait before. I've been around it, but I've never actually gone into a store and said, "Give me a styrofoam container full of worms."
It's part of my childhood in Rockthrow, West Ontario. I think I'm not a big fisherman now, but my dad is a great fisherman, and
you won't find it hard to believe that the times we did go to Maine when I was a kid, the day that everybody would go out for the big long fishing trip, I would demand to be taken to the bookstore and to mini golf. So there you go. That's probably why I have no familiarity with bait, basically.
Just mentioning, my dad's a great fisherman, and his cousin, that we have a branch of our family which is sort of the good old boy redneck branch of our family, live in the Florida Panhandle.
Oh wow!
And my dad's uncle, everyone just called him the Admiral.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that's awesome. And maybe he was the guy who took the big guy on his fishing trip into the Bermuda Triangle.
It could be.
Does this have something to do with my raise?
No, that's not quite. Hey, see, you're a busy guy.
Well, yes, I am.
You got the news, you got the sports, you got the weather, you got the traffic, you got your award-winning farm reports. You've been very good about letting Bailey help you with the news.
And don't forget Mr. Carlson's idea for a new sports interview show.
Well, Les, I kind of wish you would.
What do you mean?
The thing is, Les, Mr. Carlson's gone and hired somebody else for that job. Look, I just found out about it myself just a few minutes ago.
Who?
Does the name Sparky mean anything to you?
Does it? Black and white collie ran away from home, broke my heart.
Sparky, Anderson?
I'm sorry, Les.
Okay, well, our second episode for this week is Sparky. And the titular Sparky is former Cincinnati Reds manager Sparky Anderson. In this episode, Les gets upset when the big guy hires Sparky Anderson to do a new sports talk show. And everybody is really excited and kind of starstruck to have Sparky around the station, played by the actual Sparky Anderson. But the show is a turkey. It never gets off the ground. And in the end, Mr. Carlson has to fire Sparky.
Yeah.
That's kind of all there is to it.
That's all there is to it. I mean, let's be honest, Rob. These are two fairly flimsy episodes of WKRP, but you know what we're here to do is not rehabilitate them, but dig out the hidden stuff in it. And I think there's quite a bit of it here. Sparky Anderson, again, an iconic figure in Cincinnati sports at this time.
Jennifer, this is the biggest decision of my life. I mean, this thing could go national. No more small time here.
I think Sparky is cute.
You're darn right he's cute. But you know, he got a raw deal in this town. Did you know what he's done for Cincinnati? He's given them 2 World Series, 4 pennants, and 6 divisions.
5 divisions.
Well, okay, 5 divisions. And that man is still the best manager in baseball.
He's the guy who won World Series. You know, it's so great in this episode. Jennifer ends up knowing a lot about sports.
Yes, that's cute.
Kind of corrects the big guy when he gets the number of pennants wrong, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, this episode, probably not my favorite. You know, we've talked a lot about 70s sports. I'm almost getting sick of talking about 70s sports.
Yeah, so the origin story of this episode behind the scenes is there's a transition going on right now in the writing staff of WKRP. And we haven't been super attentive to who writes which episodes. I think that if you watch really closely, you know, the super fans do have a sense of, oh, this is a so-and-so episode, this is a so-and-so episode.
Yeah.
But basically some of the first season writers, particularly Bill Dial, who we've talked about, Bucky, and Tom Chihak, left the show at this point to do other things. And Bill Dial went on to do, I'm amused by this, the Misadventures of Sheriff Lobo. Do you remember this show? Are you aware of Sheriff Lobo?
I don't remember Sheriff Lobo, but Homer Simpson definitely
Homer Simpson does. Bring back Sheriff Lobo. Sheriff Lobo was actually, to tie it to an earlier episode of the podcast, was a spin-off character from BJ and the Bear, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
Played by Claude Akins. He was the sheriff who sort of bedeviled BJ and the Bear, and then for 2 years, in 1979 to 81, sort of got his own show. Bill Dial also, callback to Pulp Fiction, which we referenced, a clip from Pulp Fiction, which we used in our pilot episode.
Yeah.
Bill Dial wrote and produced a show called Codename Foxfire, which, when you read the description, has to be Fox Force 5, the show that Quentin Tarantino based Fox Force 5 on.
I heard you did a pilot.
That was my 15 minutes.
What was it?
It was a show about a team of female secret agents called Fox Force 5.
What?
Fox Force 5. Fox as in we're a bunch of foxy chicks. Force as in we're a force to be reckoned with. And 5 as in there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us.
And it's a show where the brother of the president of the United States starts a team of counterintelligence operatives who are all sexy ladies.
Well, you know, that's also true to the time, because if Billy Carter had been given the money, he probably would have done that very thing himself.
That's right. I didn't think of it as being Billy Carter himself.
So Bill Dial, again, I mentioned him in the show notes about baseball. Much like Edie McClurg, you think Bucky is in more episodes than he's actually in. He's only in those 2 holed up in baseball. And so, we should definitely tip our caps to Bill Dial. Definitely, I got a sense that a lot of the stuff he wrote in that first season was the stuff, like he said about the American public, being pleasantly stunned on beer watching TV. I feel like his perspective is going to be sorely missed going forward.
Hello. In an earlier era of television, 156 episodes of this well-known and beloved Western were made. 155 were aired. 1 was not. Because of its tasteless, rude, and meaningless content, it was censored. Tonight, Laugh Track presents that never-before-seen episode of The Cisco Kid.
This episode is the first episode written by 2 guys named Peter Tarakfe, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, and Steve Campman. And Tarakfe and Campman were in Second City, in the Toronto company of Second City. And did you ever see the SCTV episode called The Cisco Kid?
Don't remember it, no.
So these guys were in the Second City, not SCTV, just the Second City Theater troupe. But they made this thing called The Cisco Kid, they took an old episode of the TV show The Cisco Kid and dubbed different dialogue onto it. Sort of like What's Up, Tiger Lily?
Yeah.
You know, Woody Allen, that was his first movie, was he made took this Japanese spy movie and put funny, changed the words to make it funny. They did the same thing with this old Western and shot that around LA. And
kind of like the 1970s version of a YouTube viral video, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was their sort of viral video. And they did ended up becoming an episode of SCTV at one point. They just ran that as an episode as if that was a show being shown on SCTV.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so on the strength of that, Hugh Wilson liked it and said, "Oh, why don't you write an episode of WKRP for me?" And I guess they I'm looking at Mike Castle's book about WKRP, and he says so he's quoting Peter Tarakvai, who would later in his life transition to be PJ, transition to being a woman.
Okay.
But anyway, Tarakvai says, "We had never seen the show before. We thought we were kind of cutting edge comedy guys. So the idea of doing a sitcom, we were sort of prepared to laugh at and mock. But then he said they watched the show and they thought it was hilarious. He said, there was nothing to mock. The jokes were the best jokes I'd ever seen on television. So we found a book that told us how to write a 30-minute sitcom. And we read that and we tried to think, well, what personal payoffs can we get here? And we thought, gee, we both really wanted to meet Sparky Anderson." Like that was their sort of motivation. They were just like, maybe we can, Cincinnati. What do we know about Cincinnati? Cincinnati Reds, Sparky Anderson. Maybe we can meet Sparky Anderson. So,
I have a lot of questions here, Rob.
That story does not make a lot of sense. I know, but it's it's the flimsiest of reeds to hang an episode on. Like we talked about how having Hoyt Axton as a guest star is not enough to build an episode around. But like actually going out of your way to like write an episode of a sitcom just so that you can meet Sparky Anderson, we should not be surprised that the result is not deathless art.
Okay, Derek, let's get over here to the phone. All right. Hi, you're in the bullpen.
Hello, Sparky?
Yeah.
How are you?
Good.
That's good.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
How are you?
Good.
That's good.
Well, thanks a lot. Bye.
Well, that's number one, Derek. Let's get back to the phones. Hi, you're in the bullpen.
Oh, hi, man. I'm calling about the free tickets for the Gary Vale, Gary U.S. Bonds concert, man.
I think you got the wrong number.
Oh, is this WKRP?
Sure is.
Then I don't have the wrong number, pal.
Well, maybe I got the wrong number.
The questions I have, I mean, if I was going to pick anyone from the Big Red Machine, I don't think necessarily I would pick Sparky Anderson. But again, maybe he's the easiest one to get. Maybe they could fit him into the plot line. All those players are still playing, so they can't be conceivably, hosts of a regular radio show. But
I guess so.
Sparky's in between jobs, right? He just got fired from Cincinnati.
Right.
So the other real world thing that's really interesting about this is that this episode, right afterwards, Sparky started getting off-season work. Even as he was managing the Tigers, as they mentioned in this episode, he started doing World Series games with Jack Buck and Vince Scully, two of the biggest announcers out there. And of course, you got Sparky, he's the former, manager. He's going to end up doing the color commentary. But you can hear just the faintest hint of Sparky getting used to being on the mic in this episode, because when he gets into the studio, and obviously the show's a bomb, as you say, but I tell you, he handles that scene. He's the only, along him and the British indoor soccer guy.
Yeah.
He's got to really kind of take charge of that scene, even though the idea is that it's very boring and they don't know what to say. Sparky somehow has enough charisma to kind of bring it off.
When you're a player on a team, Sparky, and everything starts to go wrong, sometimes you're tempted to, boy, how do you say it? Quit.
Quit? I don't even know the meaning of that word.
Well, I know that. I mean, that's my point, I think.
You're drifting on me, Arthur. What are you trying to say?
Well, what I'm trying to say, Sparky, is how's it going?
Great.
No, it's not. I mean, you're great, but your show's not, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to
say it.
Hire you.
Now, that's a word I understand.
Yeah, that scene ends up working pretty well, and it is a kind of a gutsy thing to do, to have all the regulars in the show walk out of the room and leave this random guest star with this sports guy. And the whole show, it's gutsy. I feel like the show is kind of dangerously meta to, how to word this. It's like dangerously meta to write an episode about a sports figure who really doesn't belong on the radio, and then to cast a sports figure who's not a comic actor. Like, it's really lampshading the fact that we just did this because we are fans of this guy. Like, the writers are fans of this guy. Mr. Carlson hired him because he's a fan, and it ends up being a mistake. And so it's, they're playing with fire to kind of like point out the very problem with the episode in the episode.
If you or I were to get a gig out of nowhere writing for a sitcom, do you think we would do something like that, where we would try to find somebody that we wanted to meet for a long time and risk our career by basing an episode around it? You're right, it is pretty gutsy.
It is. It's gutsy and strange. It's true.
Are you thinking about who you'd want to write into a sitcom right now?
I mean, yeah, but mostly I'd want to meet people who make sitcoms. Like those, I'm more interested in that than meeting the former manager of the Cincinnati Reds.
Our first guest for tonight's show is Derek Dougal, captain of the Cincinnati Skids indoor soccer team. Welcome to the bullpen, Derek.
Hello.
Hi. Derek, this indoor soccer is a new sport. Could you tell us something about it?
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful. It's soccer played indoors, like in a hockey rink. Sort of soccer hockey.
Boy, that's an interesting combination. Well, what are the rules?
I don't know, really. I don't care.
We talked about that scene in the studio, right, where he's interviewing a player for the indoor soccer team in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
The Cincinnati Skids.
The Cincinnati Skids.
Awful name.
What's the guy's name? Duncan Dougal or something like that. It's now, this has become another one in what has become a fairly long line of random British guest stars.
And I do feel, not to go too far afield, but I do feel like there is that sense that if you're doing comedy in the 70s, that Monty Python definitely like casts a long influential shadow and sort of like these people would have been in their 20s when Monty Python first came over, in the early 70s to the United States. So I think funny, I think British.
Yeah, not just Monty Python, but I think Python is the vector, sort of like that's what's happening in comedy. But as a result, all through the 70s, I think of all the British sitcoms, all the Britcoms that made it onto TV, usually on like PBS in the 70s and 80s, and then all of the remakes of those that if you're looking for an idea for a sitcom, very often you just do an American remake of a British sitcom.
I was rereading an old article from one of our show notes about All in the Family, and essentially how Norman Lear saw one episode of Till Death Do Us Part and bought the rights right there. He didn't really think about kind of what plot lines they had used, but he saw the basic outline of the, bigoted older, World War II and the younger son-in-law, and just decided to pick up the entire concept for the sitcom right then and there as he watched it on TV when he was over in England visiting. So sitcoms tend to travel that way across the Atlantic, and game shows tend to travel the other way.
Wait, so sitcoms come from England and game shows go from...
Yeah, the import-export is that we import the sitcoms and we export our crappy game shows, which, again, kind of makes sense.
All right, I'm feeling a little bit like Sparky Anderson here, in that we're not coming up with a zillion things to talk about for this episode. That's what we signed up for. We said, is there enough to talk about in every episode of this sitcom? And sometimes it's going to be a little tougher, a little more of an uphill battle than others.
As Lenore said, warts and all, right? And we've got to take the Sparkies along with the fish stories and stuff
warts
like that.
And all, but even in the dry spots. There's weird little nuggets and funny little things. And one of the weird little nuggets that I remember really well in this episode, that I've probably sung this song, I know I've sung this song to my kids, is Les comes in at one point and starts telling everyone about this dream he just had. And of course, Les is mad at Mr. Carlson for hiring Sparky over him. So he's got this resentment in him. But, well, I could sing the song, but probably we'll just use the clip.
I dream every night, and then I write these dreams down in my journals. Last night I had a really weird dream about a new show for Sparky.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, we were all right here, just as we are now, discussing this new show with Sparky, except you didn't look like yourself, Mr. Carlson. You look much more like a large muffin.
Muffin?
Yes, a nice breakfast muffin. And you said you had an exciting announcement.
Well?
Well, you sang it. I'm a big fat muffin that loves to eat. A big fat muffin that has no feet. But most of all, I'm a big fat muffin that loves to explode. And then you did.
Well, this got me thinking, we both agree this is an incredibly oddball thing. I mean, these guys seem to have kind of an oddball mentality, Torquay and Campman. They seem to...
Yeah, I think that probably this is, we're seeing the kind of weird Second City sketch sensibility to just in the middle of this episode about Sparky have this bizarre song about a muffin who explodes.
But you have to admit, Rob, if the big guy was going to be a breakfast food, he'd be a muffin, right?
He'd be a muffin.
He's
a
kind
nice
of muffin-shaped. He kind of looks like one. It makes me want to do one of those things where you come up with breakfast foods that each of the members of the cast of WKRP would be.
What breakfast food would each character be? Maybe that's homework for the listeners.
Yes, if you have suggestions, you can win our second contest.
Our second season contest. I think the first joke... Oh, I'm going to get wrong which kid it is, and they're going to be upset at me. I think that the first joke that my daughter made up that really cracked me up, but it might be my son. So if I apologize, Eli, if it was you. I think that the first joke my daughter told me that totally cracked me up was she was like, 2 muffins are sitting in the oven. And the first muffin says, "Hey, are you baked yet?" And the second muffin says, "Jumpin' Jillikers, a talking muffin?"
There's something about little kids' jokes that kind of hit that Dadaist sort of that nonsense. It's like, and they make you sit there and think and go, wait a minute, you're right, they're both talking. Either of them shouldn't be able to talk.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. That's actually brilliant. Yeah. Oh, there's another mention in this episode, Rob, of the Wingy Manone Memorial Mall.
The Wingy Manone Memorial Mall, which is part of Hamilton Camp when he's playing Del Murdoch's Del Super Stereo. He has that great riff where he just like rants for like 2 minutes, does the ad, and it builds to, across the street from where the men at work hang out at the Wingy Manone Memorial Mall. And, it's a terrific name, which I had kind of assumed was like a funny Native American place name. Listening to, growing up with Buffalo TV, I was always sort of, the musical sound of like Tonawanda and Cheektowaga, these great place names. But it's not. You want to say what Wingy Manone is?
Wingy Manone, again, probably just, I feel like Hamilton Camp just kind of threw that in as an improv. You know what I mean? He's an old musician, a trumpet player. Wingy was not his given name, his birth name. It was a nickname given to him because he actually only had, one arm. So, obviously somebody's got one arm, you're gonna call him Wingy back in the 30s, right? That's kind of par for the course. The really weird thing about Wingy Manone is that he was still alive when both of these episodes were shot.
Yeah, so...
He died in 1982. Why is it the Wingy Manone Memorial Mall?
Right, and he has no particular connection to Cincinnati that I can see.
None at all,
He's like sort of New Orleans, right?
Yeah. But again, you have to figure it was one of those situations where Hamilton Camp had like, a list of 5 names, like that would sound funny as the, we're going with Wingy Manone.
Okay, memorize these funny place names. Walla Walla, Keokuk, Cucamonga, Seattle.
Stop it, you're killing me. Seattle.
Wingy Manone Memorial Mall.
You didn't have Wikipedia to check to see if someone was still alive back then.
Just assume. And what they're advertising at the Wingy Manone Memorial Mall is a Jerry Vale, Gary U.S. Bonds concert, which is that's a sort of random joke that maybe doesn't land right now, but just because I think that's it's meant to be a weird juxtaposition. Jerry Vale is like a kind of Italian-American crooner.
Yeah.
Gary U.S. Bonds is like a kind of Southern country R&B rock singer.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Jerry Vale thing, they said that Hugh Wilson tried to sneak references about him into everything he did, so...
Right, so anytime you hear Jerry Vale, that's Hugh Wilson's fingerprints on the episode. Yeah.
Cal, it's good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you, Arthur. Now, I have to tell you, Helen and I just got back from Las Vegas, and we saw all the shows. Gosh, that Norm Crosby sure is funny. And Buddy Hackett. Bud. He came out and talked just filthy for a whole hour.
Pure dirt.
One bathroom joke after another.
Toilet time.
It was beautiful. Arthur, and we at Sunlux are very enthusiastic about sponsoring the Sparky Anderson Show.
I think we're sitting on a gold mine here, Cal.
Oh, so the big oil guy just got back from Vegas.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and he was talking about all the great shows he saw there. He saw Norm Crosby and Buddy Hackett. Now, again, we'll need to unpack this a little bit for everyone, but if you were going to go to Las Vegas in 1979, sort of in the the casino, Martin Scorsese film era of Vegas, there's going to be headliners, and there's going to be people a little further down on the sort of marquee in front of the casino. I would have to say that Norm Crosby, Buddy Hackett was in Vegas, just like Don Rickles, just like any number of these insult comics for a long, long time. But Buddy Hackett was the budget Don Rickles, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And the thing is like with an insult comic, you tend to want the insult comic to be kind of talented. Because if he's not, he's just sitting there just insulting the hell out of you, basically.
Well, but that's what the guy says. He's so pleased. He says, Buddy Hackett just spoke, what did he say? He said, talked filthy for an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And Norm Crosby, another sort of, again, a name I again faintly remember from childhood, another comic, and he had a resurgence in the late 70s during what I consider sort of the golden age of beer commercials. You had the Bob Uecker, Miller Lite commercial at this time period. You had the John Madden commercials.
Yeah.
And so, he did, Norm Crosby also was lowered down on the totem pole. He did advertisements for Natty Light, which obviously, even back then, was a really shit beer. You know what I mean? So, people were really into light beers in the late 70s. It was a new thing back then, right?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, and people wanted to be assured that it was manly to drink a light beer because the intimation was just like the whole, I think it was in Mad Men, they even talked about this late in the 60s that they were starting to come up with these light beer formulations and men wouldn't drink them. Well, I'm not going to drink a non-full calorie beer. What do you take me for? But in the 70s, they used all these sports guys and Norm Crosby, a comedian, to kind of try to sell these.
To try and sell the idea of light beer.
Norm Crosby, also the co-host, to link back up with the Americathon thing from a few weeks ago, the co-host of the Jerry Lewis Telethon from 1983 until its end, or until he passed away. Norm Crosby is still alive. Excuse me. There I go. I did a Winnie Minone
Crosby
all
Memorial
of a sudden.
Mall. Sorry, Norm.
Over the years, us guys in light beer from Miller have had a lot of laughs. But this time we'd like to share some personal sentiments. Boo?
Have a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, and a Happy New Year, too.
Yeah.
And this holiday, may there be bass under all your lily pads.
May all your pockets be full.
Feliz Navidad. Peace.
We wish you everything you always wanted in a Christmas.
And more.
I'm glad they asked me to do this commercial. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back soon with more WKRP riffs and memories. If you like this well enough to listen to the whole thing, tell somebody about it.
We're online at holdmyorderterribledresser.com, which, believe it or not, wasn't taken. We're also available on iTunes, and we always appreciate your iTunes subscriptions, reviews, ratings, and downloads. So get on there and give us some stars.
Good day, and may the good news be yours.
If you've ever wondered whatever became of me, I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. I'm a WKRP in Cincinnati.